Hey everyone, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to do something a little different. When I first launched my YouTube channel, I made an announcement and I said that I hope to do a few other things on my YouTube other than workouts for you to do at home, which are very important. But also, I have a huge interest in cooking. I love to cook. I cook for all of our friends, our family, and I thought it might be fun to do some short cooking videos to show you a few things. Maybe you know how to cook, maybe you don't know how to cook, and if it's not of interest of yours, then please go right back to the workout videos. But today I thought I would take the opportunity and the abundance of vegetables in our gardens right now, and I have picked some things from my own garden, and what I did not have available to me, I picked up at the farmer's market today. So we're gonna make ratatouille, which is a combination. You could use any vegetables that you want, but classically it's a combination of eggplant, squash. I got two different kinds because I like the color variation, and you're gonna understand in a moment. And I add some onion to mine, and then I use Roma tomatoes, the kind of pear-shaped tomato, because they don't have as much juice in them, and so the dish doesn't get overly watery. I also have some basil here, fresh basil from my, what was a basil plant that has now turned into a basil tree. So lots of basil. If you plant basil, put it in a great, morning sun location where it doesn't get overly hot. It will produce basil, basil, basil. Also, I have some pre-made tomato sauce, like a spaghetti sauce. I got a tomato basil spaghetti sauce because I'm using fresh basil also. You could use any kind of pre-made sauce, or you can make a sauce yourself. I wasn't that industrious today, so I just thought I'd use a little pre-made sauce. I also have just a little bit of grated Parmesan cheese. So, I am going to begin by showing you how I cut these vegetables, and then, because I don't think you're gonna have to want to really watch me cut them all, we will kind of cut to the preparation of putting it all together. What I do, and you could use a mandolin if you have it. I have a mandolin, but I find these small little vegetables are just as easy to cut with my vegetable knife. I'll start here with a tomato and just kind of show you. I cut the end of the tomato off. Now, I am not like that part, I would probably just throw away. But all the ends and pieces that I think are usable, I will save in a plastic bag, because I'm gonna make another dish that requires lots of just chopped up vegetables, and so I'll be able to use those end pieces there, so you don't have to feel like you're wasting by cutting off. I'm gonna cut about 1/4 of an inch slice of this Roma tomato, and I'm just gonna do the entire tomato all the way down to the end, nice and neat. And so I'm just making little rounds. I'm going to do the same thing with the eggplant. Now, the great thing about this time of year is at your farmer's market or in your own garden, you can find vegetables that are of a variety of sizes. Sometimes it's hard around where I live to find eggplant, Asian eggplant, which is what these longer ones are in the wintertime. So I've taken my eggplant, and I've got my eggplant and my tomato cut fairly closely together in size. And as you can see, they're fairly close in the circumference around them. So they're going to look great in the presentation that we're going to use. We're going to do the same thing with a zucchini. This zucchini is a little skinny on the end. Let me start with the fatter end. I'm going to do exactly the same size. I make these a little bit bigger. That was probably a little too thick. I make these a little thicker than some recipes call for, because I've made it several times and I found that it can get overly mushy, and I prefer my vegetables to have still a bit of texture to them instead of being like super mushy. So now we have this squash, the eggplant, and the tomato, very similar in size. I'm going to do the same thing with the yellow squash, and then the onion. You can't really find onion in this size. So what I do with the onion is I cut the onion in very thin slices, and then I'll show you when we get ready to put it together how I place the onion in. If you could find onion in that size and you want to use it, that'd be perfectly fine. So without boring you with the details of chopping, I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so just like that, all of the chopping's done. I have them separated into different piles because today we're having people over for dinner and I wanted to make kind of a special presentation with this. You can make this any way you want. You could stack it all on top of each other in a 9x9 or 13x9 pan if you're going to be making a lot. I am using today just a pie plate. I had this one and then I had a Christmas one, so I thought this would be better for the video. So I'm going to put this in the pie plate, and the first thing that I'm going to add to it is that sauce that I have reserved off to the side, and that is a cup of sauce. I'm going to put that in there, and then I'm just going to spread it out, and that is going to be the base for our ratatouille. As I said before, you could make your own sauce, but I wasn't feeling that industrious today. So I am going to put on top of this just a little sprinkle of my grated Parmesan cheese, and that'll add a little saltiness to that and a little savoriness also, but I didn't overdo it. So now here comes the magic. Well, actually second. Magic's not yet. We're going to take the onions. And I am going to take my onion that I just had like a normal just yellow onion, and I sliced it fairly thinly, and I am going to break it up into little rounds and spread it on top of that cheese. As I said before, if you found onion that were similar sized to the other things, you could use, I'm not going to use the whole onion. I probably used half of it, well, probably 3/4 of an onion. If you like more onion, you could use that. And I've got this is my pile of leftover pieces of vegetables that I'm going to use in a dish later on. So here, I just have my onions spread on top of the tomato sauce. So now I'm going to make a really fun, fancy presentation, and I'm going to just take one of each piece. So a yellow squash, an eggplant, a zucchini, and a tomato. And I'm going to sit them on their edge in this plate, right like that. Then I'm going to do the same thing again. Be going in my little line of veggies that I have there, and then I just put that tomato right up against that yellow squash, and I'm just going to keep going all the way around. And when I'm finished, I'll show it to you. All right, so as you can see, I have completed the assembly of the ratatouille. It's beautiful. It is a very lovely presentation, and you could do this anyway. You could slice them thinner if you want. As I said, I like a little more texture in my vegetables, and you could do it in a flat pan so that they're layered on top of each other instead of having them in this little circle, but this is just kind of fancy. So I'm going to show you here, I have picked some basil from my garden, and I have taken the leaves off and stacked them one on top of the other. We're going to do a fancy little cut here that I wanted to show you. So all I'm going to do is with the leaves, I'm going to roll it like a cigar, really, really tight into a basil cigar. So can you see it laying there? Really, it's about this long, nice and tight. And then I'm going to take a really sharp knife and I'm going to cut it super, super thin. And while I'm pressing down and keeping it cut in that very tight little cigar shape. It's going to go all the way down it. This is called a chiffonade, and it's a fun little way to put your basil on top of things. So what I have created here basically is basil confetti. Tiny little shreds of basil. And we're going to take that in just a moment and we're going to top our dish with it. So I'm going to do a little salt and pepper. This is perfect. whatever kind. I like lots of pepper, so I always put lots of pepper on everything. And that's the great thing about cooking. I know some of you may be cooks and some of you might not be cooks, but and some people I've heard, they say, well, I don't cook because I'm like afraid of cooking. I'm not going to do it right. That's the beauty of cooking. Well, except for baking, and we'll cover that in a different section. Cooking is all about trying things together, tastes that go together. A great way to begin cooking, if you're not a cook, is to just try some basic recipes. They're all over the internet. You can get a variety of things. And then after you make the recipe, you may change it a little bit. That's how I started cooking. I used to read cookbooks all the time, like most people read novels. I was like a weirdo. But my dad was very into cooking, and so I read cookbooks. I'm taking my chef and I'm just going to kind of just gently put a little bit, and then I'm going to save some more to put on top of it when it's finished baking. Now, more cheese. I mean, I totally, in this entire container, only had right at 1/4 cup of cheese, so it's not overly cheesy. So it's not going to be super calorie rich, but that little bit of cheese does make a nice salty flavor for it. Okay, so we are ready to bake. But remember, I've had my oven on at 350 degrees. I'm going to place this lovely dish, see how pretty it is, in the oven. But it's really important to remember that this could be anything for you. It could be super thin sliced vegetables that you stack on top of each other. You don't have to do it my way. You do it your way. And the taste is going to be great because if you use all the same ingredients, it's going to taste the same. So I'm going to put it in the oven. I'm going to show you what it looks like when it gets done. All right? See you in a bit. All right, it's done. It turned out really, really good. I'm going to lift it up here and show it to you if I can try to do it without scalding myself. So, nice, beautiful. I added just a little bit of extra basil on top when I pulled it out of the oven. And can't turn it too much. It has, juice in the bottom from the spaghetti sauce that we put in the bottom, but don't put too much spaghetti sauce because in a size dish like this, a cup is plenty, because the vegetables have a lot of water in them, and as they heat up and lose their water, it mixes into the sauce, and you don't want to dilute the sauce too much by adding water to it or by thinking that you don't have enough and piling it on. It'll be perfect with about a cup for this pie plate size. So I'm going to serve this tonight. We're having some salmon and some shrimp. This will be a great side dish, but be innovative. Think of ways that you can make it. I made it a few weeks ago. We were having steak and a chimichurri sauce, and in the tomato base, I put cayenne pepper and smoky paprika, so it made it more Spanish tasting than this one is, which tastes a little bit more Italian. Ratatouille is classically a French dish, but you can make it your own. You can make anything your own. That's the beauty of cooking at home. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm not a chef, I'm just a home cook, and I'm like someone who likes to share ideas with other people. So I hope you like it.